When Jennifer passed away suddenly at just 27, the shock reverberated through everyone who knew her. No one expected it, least of all my brother, Matt, who had spent the last 5 years building a life with her. Their love had been beautiful and intense, a bond that felt unbreakable, until now. As we gathered to grieve and remember, Matt was haunted by one thought: her phone. Should he unlock it? Should he sift through her private messages, photos, and videos? What secrets might it hold, memories, love, or something darker? It had been 3 weeks since Jennifer's sudden death. She had been vibrant, full of life, and in what appeared to be perfect health. When the call came that she had collapsed and didn't make it to the hospital, our family was shattered. Matt had crumpled into himself, a shell of the confident, easygoing man he once was. In the days that followed, he functioned on autopilot, handling arrangements, speaking at the funeral, and returning to an empty home that no longer felt like his. As Matt's younger brother, I tried to be there for him in any way I could. I knew what Jennifer had meant to him. In the 5 years they had been together, she had become more than just his wife, she was his world. She had a way of lighting up a room, making people feel seen, and their bond was enviable. But after she was gone, the house they'd shared felt like a graveyard of memories, frozen in time. The days dragged on, and Matt began to obsess over the little things: her scent on her clothes, the half-finished projects she'd left around the house, and most of all, her phone. It had been left on the bedside table, untouched since that fateful night. As the weeks passed, he became consumed by the idea of unlocking it. She had so many pictures, videos, our entire life is in there, Matt told me one evening. I want to remember the good times, but I don't know if I should. The dilemma was clear. Would going through her phone bring him closure, or would it reveal things he wasn't prepared to confront? After all, everyone has private thoughts, messages, and maybe even secrets. Was it worth risking his peace of mind to find out what was on it? Jennifer had been a very private person, even with Matt. She was open and loving, but there were certain parts of her life she preferred to keep to herself. Her phone had always been one of those boundaries. She never hid it, but she didn't share everything about it either. There were late-night texts with friends, social media messages, and who knows what else. Matt had respected her privacy during their relationship, but now that she was gone, the urge to delve into her digital life was overwhelming. She'd want me to see the photos, right? Matt asked me over dinner one night. His eyes were tired, and the grief was etched into every line of his face. But what if there's something in there I don't want to see? I didn't know what to say. The truth was, he could find anything. Maybe there were sweet memories that would give him peace, or maybe there were things she never intended him to see. Conversations, plans, things from her past that she kept locked away. You've got to be prepared for anything, I warned. Once you open that door, you can't close it again. But Matt was torn. He wanted to hold on to the memories, but the fear of finding something unexpected weighed on him. He spent nights staring at the phone, debating whether to enter her passcode, which he had known for years but never used. In the days that followed, the phone became a symbol of Matt's torment. His grief was no longer just about losing Jennifer, but about the unknown. It was like there was another version of her life locked behind that screen, a version he hadn't known. He began asking me and others in our family for advice, but no one could give him a clear answer. Opinions were divided. Some said he had every right to go through her phone. After all, they had shared their lives. Others argued that her privacy should be respected, even in death. It's not just about you, Matt, one of our cousins said at a family dinner. What if you find something that hurts you more? You've already been through so much. Matt clenched his jaw and said nothing. I could tell he was battling with himself, torn between wanting to preserve her memory and fearing the truth that might lie within her phone. After weeks of agonizing over it, Matt finally made a decision. I'm going to look, he told me one night, his voice barely above a whisper. I need to know. I need to see her face again, hear her laugh, even if it's just in a video. I didn't try to stop him. I knew this was something he had to do for himself, and I could only be there for him afterward, whatever the outcome. The next day, I sat with him in his living room as he picked up Jennifer's phone for the first time since her death. His hands were trembling. He entered the passcode and stared at the screen as it unlocked. I could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on both of us. He swiped through the home screen, his eyes scanning the apps, messages, and notifications. It was eerie, as if Jennifer was still alive, just a swipe away. He opened her photo gallery, and there she was, smiling, laughing, alive in hundreds of snapshots. The relief in his face was palpable, and for a moment, it seemed like this was the closure he needed. But then, something changed. As Matt scrolled through the gallery, his expression shifted from relief to confusion. "What's this?" he muttered, opening a folder he had never seen before. It was password protected. His face paled as he realized that despite knowing her main passcode, there were parts of Jennifer's phone he still couldn't access. "Should I?" he asked, looking up at me with a mix of fear and curiosity. I hesitated but nodded. "If you've come this far." He tried a few combinations, birthdays, anniversaries, until finally, the folder unlocked. Inside were a series of videos, none of which Matt had seen before. They were all dated within the last year of her life. With trembling fingers, he clicked on the first one. It was Jennifer, sitting alone in their living room. She looked tired, her face drawn with something that resembled worry or fear. She spoke directly to the camera. "I don't know if I should tell him," she whispered. "I love Matt, but there's so much he doesn't know. If he ever found out." Matt stopped the video abruptly, his breath hitching in his throat. His hands were shaking uncontrollably now, and I could see the panic rising in his eyes. "What does she mean?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. I didn't have an answer. All I could do was watch as he scrolled to the next video, and then the next. Each one seemed to peel back another layer of Jennifer's life that Matt had never known. Conversations with people he didn't recognize, cryptic messages about decisions she had made, and hints of a past that she had kept hidden. The last video was the hardest to watch. In it, Jennifer was sitting on the edge of their bed, looking directly into the camera. Tears were streaming down her face. "Matt, if you're watching this, I'm sorry," she said, her voice shaking. "There are things I should have told you, but I was too scared. I thought maybe I could fix it. Maybe I could keep it all from you. But now it's too late." The phone fell from Matt's hands and clattered onto the floor. He stared at the screen, but it was as if he wasn't seeing it anymore. The weight of Jennifer's secrets had crushed him. Matt sat in stunned silence, staring at the floor as if the weight of the world had just collapsed on his shoulders. The air was thick with the tension of what we had just witnessed. I didn't know what to say, and for a moment either did he. Everything he thought he knew about Jennifer, their life together, their love, now felt fragile, as if built on something hidden and broken. "Why didn't she tell me?" Matt's voice cracked, barely audible. He sounded like a man lost, torn between his love for Jennifer and the growing realization that she had carried secrets to the grave. I wanted to comfort him, but nothing I could say would make sense of the situation. All I could do was sit beside him as he processed what he had just uncovered. It was clear that Jennifer had been struggling with something significant, something she had kept buried deep, even from Matt. But what was it? We sat in silence for what felt like hours, the phone lying face down on the floor like a ghostly reminder of the truth Matt had uncovered. When he finally spoke again, his words were laced with a new kind of pain. "I need to know the rest," he whispered. "I need to know everything." Matt's hands trembled as he picked up the phone again. There were still unanswered questions swirling in his mind, and the only place to find the answers was in the messages and conversations Jennifer had left behind. With a deep breath, he began opening her texts, emails, and social media apps. The first messages were innocent enough, chats with friends and family, plans for dinners, and affectionate notes exchanged between the two of them. But soon, Matt stumbled upon a name he didn't recognize, Eric. The messages between Jennifer and Eric were sporadic at first, dating back about 2 years. They started off as friendly, discussing work, projects, and seemingly harmless things. But as Matt scrolled through, the tone shifted. The conversations became more personal, more intimate. "Do you think we should tell him?" One of the messages from Eric read. It was from about 8 months before Jennifer's death. Matt stared at the text, his face paling as the reality of what it might mean started to sink in. He frantically scrolled through the rest of the conversation. The messages between Jennifer and Eric hinted at meetings, secret phone calls, and an emotional connection that Matt had never known existed. There were no explicit mentions of an affair, but the insinuations were undeniable. By the time Matt reached the last message from Eric, sent just a week before Jennifer's death, his hands were shaking so badly he could barely hold the phone. "We can't keep this a secret forever," Eric had written. "I don't know how much longer I can do this. You need to tell him the truth." Matt dropped the phone like it had burned him. His entire body was trembling, and the room seemed to close in around him. "I can't believe this," he muttered, his voice barely audible. She was lying to me. She had someone else. How could she do this?" I had no answers. It was clear that Jennifer had been hiding something from Matt for a long time, something that involved this mysterious Eric. But there were still too many questions left unanswered. In the days that followed, Matt's world spiraled into chaos. The phone had become a Pandora's box, one that he couldn't close now that it had been opened. Every time he looked at it, the memories of his life with Jennifer seemed tainted by the discovery of her hidden relationship with Eric. He began obsessing over the smallest details, revisiting their past with new eyes. Every moment, every conversation, every smile now felt like a lie. He started asking himself questions he had never thought to ask before. Had she ever truly loved him? Was their marriage just a cover for something else? And most of all, why hadn't she told him the truth? Matt became distant, retreating into himself. He would sit for hours, scrolling through Jennifer's messages and videos, trying to piece together the life she had kept from him. The house, once filled with memories of their love, now felt like a prison of unanswered questions. But the hardest part was knowing that he could never confront her. Jennifer was gone, and with her, the opportunity to understand her reasons. The phone held fragments of the truth, but it wasn't enough. It was like trying to solve a puzzle with missing pieces. One night, after a particularly difficult day, Matt finally broke down. He called me over, his voice hollow and desperate. "I don't know what to do anymore," he admitted. "I keep thinking about her, about what she kept from me, but I'll never know the full story. It's driving me insane." I sat beside him, unsure of how to help. Maybe it's time to let go," I suggested gently. "You've uncovered as much as you can, but Jennifer's not here to explain her side of things. Holding on to this won't bring you peace." Matt looked at me, his eyes filled with anguish. "But how do I move on when everything I thought I knew was a lie?" I didn't have an answer for that. All I knew was that continuing down this path would only bring him more pain. He needed closure, but the phone wasn't going to give it to him. The truth Jennifer had hidden from him had already taken its toll, and now it was time to decide whether to continue living in that shadow or to find a way to move forward. In the weeks that followed, Matt slowly began to come to terms with his grief. It wasn't easy, and the journey was far from over, but he made a choice: to stop looking for answers in Jennifer's phone. He deleted the messages, the videos, and the contacts that had caused him so much pain. He knew he could never forget what he had found, but he realized that continuing to dig through her secrets wouldn't bring him the closure he needed. One evening, as we sat on the porch, Matt turned to me, a flicker of resolve in his eyes. "I'll never understand why she did what she did," he said quietly. "But I don't want to let it destroy me. I loved her, and I'll hold on to the good memories. That's all I can do now." It wasn't a perfect resolution. Matt would always carry the scars of what he had uncovered, but he had made a decision to move forward. He chose to remember Jennifer for the woman he loved, the woman who had brought him joy, even if she had also brought him pain. As time went on, Matt began to rebuild his life, slowly piecing together a future without Jennifer. The grief never fully went away, but it became more bearable. And in the end, he realized that while the phone had revealed things he never wanted to know, it had also taught him an important lesson: some secrets are better left in the past. A year later, on the anniversary of Jennifer's death, Matt visited her grave for the first time since he had uncovered her secrets. He stood there for a long time, staring at the headstone, the memories of their time together rushing back. "I forgive you," he whispered, his voice trembling with emotion. "I don't understand, but I forgive you." And with that, he left the cemetery, walking away with a heart still heavy but no longer weighed down by the burden of the past. He had found his closure, not in the answers he had sought, but in the decision to let go. In the end, the phone had given him a glimpse into a part of Jennifer's life he had never known. But it had also taught him that some things are better left untold, and that sometimes, the only way to find peace is to accept what you'll never fully understand.